Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. We get together with our distribution partners most weekday mornings, 8 o'clock Central, to talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories, and support each of you. In addition to our daily, what we'll call our group sessions, like now, we also request that each of you schedule a one-on-one. The one-on-ones are important because we can address obviously individual questions, but we can also go through all your clients, talk about your pipeline, help you solve any problems, make sure that you're successful going out to the affinity partners and so forth. So thank you for being here live today, but don't forget, please, about the importance of the one-on-ones. So with that being said, today we want to talk about trade lines. So I am sharing, if all's going well, I'm sharing. Let me go ahead and, yeah, it looks like I'm sharing the screen. So you all should see the, let me go ahead and make sure that that is shared properly. Okay, so it should be sharing chapmanloanprogram.org. That's the intent. And so if anyone needs individual assistance, you'll go ahead and email us, call us, or text us, just because there's no way with hundreds of you on the line that I can adequately respond to individual requests. Okay, today's topic, trade lines, trade lines, trade lines. So the big picture is we're helping businesses become fundable. I think we're probably clear on that. That's what Chapman Loan Program does. That's what this all talks about. That's what the proposal explains. That's what the press release explains. That's what the YouTube explains. That's what our educational training explains. But one specific element of that is, I'm sorry, is building trade lines. So I want to talk about building trade lines at a deeper level today. So why would any entrepreneur, why would any small business owner want to have trade lines under their EIN? So again, we're not talking about personal trade lines, which we could help with, but specifically, we're talking about business credit. Why would that matter? So I'm going to ask you if you could type into the Q&A, it's like a chat box of Zoom. Why do you think having trade lines is important? So Anwar, go ahead and type your answer, why you think that's important. Audria, Bernard, Bobby, Cecile, Charles, David, Dulcie, Eric, the other Eric, Ernestina, Felicia, Iantha, Ikena, Katia, Ken, Larry. We've got 325 of you on. I can't name everyone. Go ahead and type into the Q&A of Zoom. It's like a chat box. Why you think it's important that a business has trade lines. We're going to talk about how we fulfill that, of course. But if we don't understand the reason why, then the what is irrelevant, isn't it? All right, so we got some great answers from a number of you. Yes, so what it's showing lenders or potential extenders of credit of any type, that the business, again, talking about business credit, talking about under the EIN, it shows that the business has had access to credit and has used it wisely. They've paid their bills on time, right? So it's really not that much different than on the personal side. Why would we personally want to have trade lines? Well, if we don't have trade lines on our personal credit, then we have limited borrowing capacity because we've not proved ourselves. Let's just call it that. We've proved ourselves as individuals. We're responsible borrowers. We'll do what we say that we'll do. We'll pay our bills that we promise to pay. Same concept on the business side. So this is where I see a lot of small businesses will come to us and they'll say, this grant sounds fine, and the startup package is a great deal, but I just want to go to funding. Well, we go to funding based upon being fundable, and these are the elements that it takes to be fundable. And one of which that we're talking about today is having a strong business credit profile. So that happens in two steps. The first thing that we do with every participant is help them get their DUNS number and build the credit profile. So that's one of the two items, all that I said. So we need to apply for a DUNS number, a Dun and Bradstreet number. There's no cost to get a DUNS number. And when we get a DUNS number, it's a unique number attributable to Dun and Bradstreet, one of the largest, one of the most important business credit bureaus. So is that instead of the EIN? No, it's just different. It's another number. It's a different number. So Dun and Bradstreet issues a DUNS, D-U-N-S number, and we help every client get their DUNS number. That's not all that needs to be done, though. Once we have the DUNS number, then we want to log in and make sure that our profile with Dun and Bradstreet is optimized. Optimized means that all the information that we could upload is uploaded. Of course, we want to be honest and ethical, but we want to provide good information. So making sure that our business name is right, and our address and our phone number and our industry code, our number of employees, and so forth. So once we've done that, then we can add trade lines, which is our topic today, adding trade lines. Sometimes people get confused by that, but it shouldn't be, because having trade lines, number one, these are primary trade lines. We can actually use these. I think that's the first misnomer. Some people think, oh, okay, we put them on there, but they're just wink, wink trade lines. No, they're real trade lines. They're trade lines that you can use. And then also, again, as many of you have alluded to, by having trade lines, our business looks more credible. It looks more fundable. It has demonstrated to the outside world that we'll do what we say that we'll do. All of you are very credible. You'll do what you say that you'll do. From our perspective, we'll do everything that we can within our power to do what we say that we'll do. But sometimes actions are louder than words. So our business credit profile shows lenders and or extenders of credit that will do what we promise to do, that we pay as agreed. So what we do is help add preferably at least 4 trade lines, and that falls under this bullet. So you might ask, well, what are the types of trade lines? Well, there's lots of different types of trade lines that we could add. One of my favorite, and we had a separate training on this before, is adding a business vehicle. Now, do clients have to add a business vehicle? Absolutely not. We don't sell cars. We don't make any money. When we're helping with adding trade lines, we do not charge for that. So when, as you might have seen with the invitation or the reminder today's meeting, we're talking about free trade lines. We are not selling trade lines. We do not charge for trade lines. Okay. Back to examples. So a business vehicle is a really good trade line to have because it meets several logical tests. Number one, most people need transportation. And if you could have that transportation in your business's name where it's 100% tax deductible, that's a good thing, right? Because you already need transportation. Let's put it in the business name. And that's vastly superior to having a business vehicle, a personal vehicle, and tracking mileage and deducting part of it. That would be a horrible decision. So let's get a vehicle in the business's name. Now, are people required to do that? Absolutely not. Not pushing that, but it's where we'll start our conversation with. Now, that could be a very large primary trade line or not such a large trade line. But what's important to know about trade lines is size matters. The bigger the trade line, the better. And I'll give you multiple examples of that as we talk this morning. So when we got our business vehicle about a month ago and we had a special training on it, we showed you a picture, not bragging, but just showing you that this works. We got a G-Wagon. So I think it was $185,000. So $185,000 trade line is a big trade line, right? That says a lot about the company instantly. So do your clients need to get a G-Wagon or a Maybach or a Ferrari? No. I mean, we can get them whatever they want. But in general, for trade lines, the bigger, the better. Now, let's say that the vehicle makes sense or doesn't make sense, but we need more than just one trade line. Then we could also look at real estate. Are they interested in real estate? If so, then that could be a very attractive trade line that could be even larger than the company auto. If, regardless of either of those two, what I think almost always makes sense is adding company credit cards. Now, if you're shutting me off saying, oh, this is all about getting company credit cards. Well, no, that's not the end goal. The end goal is to have a fundable business so we can go get working capital, right? I understand where we're going. We're just talking about becoming credible along the way. So what if we added one or two, a couple business credit cards? We're talking about MasterCard, Visa, American Express, real credit cards that are in their hands that they can go use. And in many cases, even though interest rates have gone up, in many cases, we're still able to get 0% introductory rates on credit cards. And that's crazy good because you can't get 0% on normal loans right now. So trade lines happen by us applying for, getting approved for, and then using the trade line. So if you just went and applied for a company vehicle, but you didn't get the company vehicle, then it doesn't create a trade line. If we just went and applied for real estate for your company, but we didn't actually buy the real estate, it wouldn't create a trade line. If we just go apply for a business credit card, but we don't actually take the credit card and use the credit card at least once, it may not trigger reporting. So those are the most common types of trade lines. Now there's other types of like little dinky trade lines. We can go get little net 30 accounts where you're buying paper towels or toilet paper or what have you. So that's kind of a fallback. But those are going to normally be smaller. And that's better than none. So because we definitely need to have trade lines, but the larger the better. So I need to open it up for each of you to go ahead and let us know what questions do you have about how we, you and I, how we provide clients free trade lines. We don't charge them for the trade lines. It fits into this process of creating a fundable business. David's making a good, well, we got a couple Davids on this morning, but one of the Davids, David S., makes a good point. So yes, the stronger that our business credit profile, the more funding that we'll qualify for. Absolutely. That's a good inference. So who has questions, comments, concerns on trade lines? All right. Jeanette is asking, are these AUs? No. AU means authorized user. That means it's kind of, it's someone else's credit and you're piggybacking off of that. And while that is available on the personal side, that is not normally done on the business side. And so, Jeanette, we're talking about business credit. So when we talk about trade lines, we're talking about primary trade lines, real trade lines under the EIN of the business. So who has questions, comments, concerns? This alone is probably enough to get a lot of clients to want to enroll in the startup package because there's a lot of people that are just out looking for trade lines. There are some websites that you could go to and buy trade lines. And let's pull one up. I didn't plan to do this, but we can. Let's see, buy a trade line. Let's see what comes up. Trade line supply, I think they're one of the biggest players. So you could go over and buy trade lines, but they're going to charge, right? Let's scroll down. So you're going to, and let's see, how come we don't see the list? Oh, here we go. So could you go buy trade lines with, $2,000 credit limit or 5,000 or 6,000? I guess we could sort this. So maybe it's the other way from the biggest. Yeah. So you could go spend $1,500 on a $67,000 trade line. Or we can provide people trade lines for free. For free. We don't charge. We don't charge for those trade lines. All right. Forgive me if I mispronounce the name. Kisinja, beautiful name. Kisinja asked, what's the maximum car loan a business can get? My experience has been up to 200,000 is the normal range. When you get above 200,000 on an individual vehicle, it's going to become more difficult to get approved for. So, yeah, and that'll cover most vehicles in the marketplace. But if we, but the question is specifically what's the maximum business car loan? And I don't want to say that that's the max, but above 200,000 is difficult to get. All right. Anwar asked, how long does the trade line report? Typically 7 years. I had someone that called yesterday and said, will it stay on forever? Well, forever is a long time. What is forever? It's more than 100 years. It's more than 1,000 years. It's more than 10,000 years. Forever is a really long time. And so, no, I wouldn't say that trade lines stay on forever. Not much is forever, in fact, but 7 years is the answer to the question of how long. Well, I got a couple questions. Anwar asked the same question. All right, so then what other questions do you have? So we're not in the trade line business. We're in the business through the grant, through our 501c3 nonprofit to help create fundable businesses. And we do it through this package. But it's a very strategically developed package, right? It's not just a bunch of odds and ends. It's providing an address, a unique commercial address, which is needed. It's getting the business formed with the Secretary of State, which is needed. It's getting the EIN and the bank account open, which both of those are needed. It's building out the business credit, which is needed. And we're not really on this topic today, but it's about having a strong balance sheet, which is needed. And you can see free, 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 free. So when we're talking about adding trade lines, this isn't a diversion. We had one of our distribution partners reach out, just wanted information on trade lines. And that's really was the catalyst for us having this discussion today. The trade line addition is an organic part of this process. Some of you have gotten a little bit confused in order, and maybe we should change this, but these really are listed in the order we go in, by the way. So this is the first thing that we do. I know it's just a bullet, but it could say number one. This is the second thing. This is the third thing. So there's reason for the order we go in. Then we build out the balance sheet, and then we go to funding. So this is the order we go in. So the day that a client signs up, are we adding trade lines? Typically not, because they're not ready. What do you mean they're not ready? Well, we need to make sure that we have a business created with an EIN. And before that, we need to make sure we have the business address, which we provide for free. So this order is the order we go in. So if you ever have a client say, well, I've enrolled, but I don't know what's next. Well, of course, you can have them schedule a call with us. But this tells you, this is the roadmap. This is step by step the process we go through. All right, and we have another question about transferring your personal vehicle into a business vehicle, and that's very interesting. We actually just helped, was it Craig? I'm not sure about the name, but Craig's coming to mind. But we just helped a client do that this week, where they had a business vehicle, I think it was a 2017 Range Rover, that instead of getting a different vehicle, we worked and flipped that from being on the personal credit to the business credit. And so that's great, right? Because that takes it off the personal credit. It doesn't affect your DTI. It's not on your personal credit anymore. It shows as a paid off auto loan on the personal, moves over to the business side, reporting under the EIN. So great question. And yes, that's not the norm of what we do. But if you wanted to flip, let's say, whether it be real estate, automobiles, or even other types of equipment, in most cases, we can move it from personal to business and even do some cash out financing, pull some cash off of it if you wanted. Cedric. Yeah, thank you, Eric. That was Cedric. I was saying Craig. Eric corrected me. Okay, so The topic today is just drilling into one element that in itself is remarkably valuable, right? Adding trade lines is something that a lot of people go out and look for. And there's companies, we can go back, there's companies that what they do is they just sell trade lines. And that's fine. I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. But you and I can do that for free. So instead of them, I don't know why it's so slow to update because we had the prices a second ago. I guess my computer needs to be rebooted. Here we go. Let's go back to where the, oh, I guess we don't want sell. We went buy. I'm reversed. That's where we had the list. So yeah, I mean, you could direct a client to go buy a bunch of trade lines, but they're paying for them instead of getting them for free. And ours are going to be under the business, which is really what we need to be focused on, is building the business credit, because businesses always have more borrowing capacity than do individuals. It's easier to get business loans than it is personal loans. It's easier to get business auto financing than it is to get personal auto financing. It's easier to get business real estate loans than it is personal real estate loans. So why in the world would we not want to focus on the business? All right, so Zachary asks, so he already has a current business, and so he's bringing up a great point. So those of us that are distribution partners, we understand that we received a grant, oh, too many clicks, received a grant, and we provide the startup package, and the startup package includes all of these things. Right, we're clear on that. But just like Zachary's asking, in some cases, you'll run into people that have some of these elements. Well, that's fine. So, like in Zachary's case, he already has his EIN. So I can't easily just draw a line through it, but fine, we'll skip that step. Zachary's already has that. We can skip that. Some people already have their business entity form. Great, then we'll skip that. Doesn't change the enrollment. They still need to enroll in the program. But if there's things that a client already has, then fine. Then we'll skip it. That just makes it go even faster. Because I think, as Zachary knows, and most of you know, it's a 30 to 60-day process to go through all of these steps in this order. And so, sure, if we can skip some steps, that can make it faster. So that is fine, Zachary. So who else has questions, I guess, on any of these bullets, but most specifically trade lines? Because we're hearing a lot of conversation about trade lines. Trade lines, great. Well, people can go buy trade lines, but notice what it says: authorized user. So if you go pay, let's go back to the credit limits. Yeah, I always do that wrong, don't I? So if you go get this 67,000 Bank of America trade line, here it is. You're going to pay 1,500 for it. Do you think that they give you the card to go use, to go buy things for your business? Hell no. No, it's an authorized user account. See, it says authorized user account. You can't use it. It's not real. What we're talking about is adding real trade lines, primary trade lines that the clients can use, which is more valuable to go spend almost $2,000 for something that you can't use, or to spend zero on something that you can use. I mean, it's insane to go spend money on AU accounts. Furthermore, most lenders now have an algorithm where they back out the AU accounts so it doesn't even weigh in the credit profile of the client. So I don't know really what they're getting other than to feel better about themselves. Here, we're adding true primary trade lines that they can use that are not fraudulent, that can be used for their business. Anyone have questions, concerns on trade lines? What will happen is, as you enroll clients into the startup package, you're going to use your agreement that we provided you an editable copy of. If you're not set up as a distribution partner, by the way, that's the bottom bullet here. Once you are, then we'll get you set up and support you and train you, but we'll provide you an editable version of the client agreement. If you want to see what the client agreement looks like, You can go to step 2 here and see. So the client will get under contract with you under your branch, as we call it, and then we handle all the implementation. So it's beautiful. You don't have any implementation responsibilities. Now you can ask and you can be involved as much as you want, but you're not responsible for it. I bring this up because as we're going through this process, when we get to this step, we're going to speak with the client and say, okay, tell us about the type of trade lines that you'd like to have. Do you want real estate? Yes or no? It doesn't matter. We're not pushing them. Do you want one or more company vehicles? Yes or no? If yes, great. Have you picked the car you want? If not, we need to go find the car you want. Do you want one or more business credit cards, which to me is a no-brainer? Great. Let's get that set up. So we work with the client to create the trade line mix that they want and that they need and that they can use. So it's great for you to know how this works, but you're not responsible for the implementation. That's why we've developed the model as it is, so you can spend your time, your energy, your effort out educating, creating awareness, making money, and then our team does all the work. Any other questions before we wrap up today on specifically trade lines? Pauline's asking, what's the ideal amount? Well, I don't know that there's a specific ideal amount, but what we said is, the bigger the trade line, the better, and the more, the better. And I know that may conflict with what some people think. On a personal side, you don't want to be loaded up with too much credit. But on a business side, the more trade lines we have, the stronger we are. Normally, we'll focus on getting 4 initial trade lines set up for the client. 4 primary trade lines. How much do we charge them for that? Free. Are they over here spending money? No. Free. So that's the normal answer. 4 should be good enough to have a good business credit score of an 80 or above. Business credit scores go from 0 to 100. 80 or above is really where we need to be. We don't need to be in the 90s. Higher is better, but if we're 80 or above, we're considered credible. All right, Cecile asked, what if the individual doesn't have a business? That's fine. That we're providing that, right? We're providing them the address, we're creating the business, the EIN, the bank account, the business credit, the balance sheet and the assets, and the funding. So it's fine if the client doesn't have a business yet. That's kind of normal, in fact. So that's not a barrier. All right. Trevor says he needs to have a one-on-one. Yeah. So Trevor, we've had many, so you understand. We use Calendly to schedule. If you don't have our Calendly link, then just send an email over and we can send you the Calendly link. And I guess we've about covered it. So in summary, we're having some really practical trainings. We talked recently about going out and developing affinity partnerships. We've talked about working with B&I to get CPAs and bankers referring to you. Today, we're just going back to the basics and drilling in a bit on what is it that we're doing to help a client become fundable. And of that, we drilled in on this bullet specifically, helping you understand that we're for free. We're helping them set up primary trade lines. And these are real trade lines, real that they can use to buy property, to buy automobiles, credit cards, what have you. All right, well, we'll be back tomorrow morning. Let us know if there's anything that you need. Again, our contact information is, of course, on the website. Have a good day. Thanks.